All right, welcome back, Generals and Admirals. This is General Johnny, and today we are going through the best USA decks, and this is actually the last part of the 5-part series that we made on this, and we are going over the Marine Striker deck. So the power ranking for this deck is going to be number 5, and like I said, the more I play this game, the more I really want to put this at number 1. So you know, this is a really good deck. Depending on what maps you show up on, you know, will really determine, you know, how good this deck is, but definitely a playable deck and probably one of my favorite decks now. And before we get this one started, if you would please like and subscribe to General Johnny Strategy, where I go over all things RTS, all things Broken Arrow, and all things strategy. Without further ado, let's go. So first off, looking at Marine Striker deck, have it pulled up here. We're gonna go through each of the tabs and we're just gonna rank them as good, okay, or bad. So for the recon tab, this is a pretty okay recon tab. There's really nothing special about it necessarily, but you know, you got all your bases covered. Most US decks that you build, it's hard to have a really terrible recon tab, but this is pretty much all the basics. It does have you know, force recon and some other things that have some AT capabilities, which is really good in a recon tab, but we'll go over all that later. For the infantry tab, this is probably one of the best infantry tabs, so definitely good. The vehicle tab, again, really good vehicle tab with the Marine and the Striker combo. It's probably one of the stronger tabs in this deck. The support tab is actually really good as well. We'll go over that later. So, and then the helicopter tab is, I would say, okay to bad. I would just give it a bad rating because it's not the way I like to use helicopters. Not that you can't use this deck with, you know, it has some helicopters, but it is not the best, or not the way I typically play helicopters in this game. And then for the air tab is really good as well. So we'll go through the eaches right now. So for the recon tab, we have first off 2 units of the force recon, and you can see here we have the LAV 25 as the support vehicle or transport vehicle. This is pretty decent if you want something that can destroy backline assets or defend itself against infantry from far away, but it's not going to win those one-on-one recon vehicle fights, as well as some of the other vehicles that we actually have in this deck. And again, the force recon, it does have the AT4s, so it has 4 of those with 4 rounds, so pretty good here. And they're decent at fighting infantry. I wouldn't say the best, but they can hold their own, especially if they're in buildings, especially if they're in woods. And I usually use the green ops. I've seen some people run it with the black ops. I just don't typically love that. It makes it more of a CQC fighting unit if you do that, so you can feel free to try it out if it matches your game style. Next thing we have are the scout snipers. So this is pretty basic snipers. I mean, you're pretty much going to get the same thing no matter what snipers you get. I do like taking them pretty cheap because obviously I just want that stealth rating of 3, and I want that ability to laze. So they have all that for pretty cheap, 75 points there. And then I have some Humvees just to get those snipers out pretty fast. Don't really care. I actually think it's pretty nice that the Humvees do have a smoke, so I don't upgrade it or anything. That's not how I usually run it, but that's again just for the speed element there. And then you have the scouts. Again, this is more of an AT type infantry with its 3 AT4s, 3 rounds for that as well, and then it can hold itself off in a infantry or at least a scout to scout fight, but again, really the main purpose is some reconnaissance or maybe shore up some infantry with your active force recon and AT type recon there. Next, we have the STRYKER RV. So this is, you can really do a whole bunch of different things with this. And again, this is a very versatile recon unit, recon vehicle that you can laze. That's really the main benefit of a recon vehicle like this. It can laze. Keep in mind with the recon vehicles, obviously you get a less of a stealth rating, but this can also fight off other recon vehicles. It can support infantry. I wouldn't use it to necessarily push, but maybe support and kind of hold down. If it does get into contact with some softer targets, it will be able to destroy them pretty easily. And you can even upgrade this to the Javelin variant, or you can do a lot of different variants. I like to have the Bushmaster. It keeps it relatively good, you know, priced. I wouldn't want a 140 point recon unit on the side sucking up those valuable income resources that you get. So this is the build that I prefer. I do like to have it with at least reactive armor. Again, it's just pretty expensive if you get the reactive or the APS on it, so I really like just the reactive armor there. Then you have the MQ1 Predator. So the thing I like about this is you can equip it with Griffin. These can obviously kill infantry or other recon units that have snuck around your lines, and then it also has a Hellfire for those other recon units, light recon units that it can help out. So deploy this if you suspect you have a problem in the back line or on the sides or flank of the line, and you can identify and destroy with this UAS. We also have the RQ-7 Shadow for 50 points. This is pretty good just to kind of spam and pop out. And again, check your back lines. It's a low-flying drone, so it can check the flanks as well as the back lines for any enemy reconnaissance or anything that might have snuck through. The IFA VTOW is pretty good as well. I like it to upgrade it, and I really just send these out at the beginning of the game just so you can cap points really quickly. If they're trying to rush an objective that's generally open, these can fire tows at it. They are not very survivable at all. I mean, with the 10 armor and 8 hit points, this really isn't that great, but it can supplement. I wouldn't keep it out on the field too long unless you are maneuvering it around the back lines to identify things, but it moves really fast, so 130 road speed is really, really fast, so you can deploy these out early game. They can help if you have an open area and they are concealed. They can fire their toes and kind of get out of there. Just expect as soon as it gets shot, it will die. So, I mean, for 55 points, you kind of got to look at it as a, this thing will get destroyed and it's not very survivable. Onto my favorite tab, which is the infantry tab. So we have the Marine Raiders CQC. This is probably one of my favorite infantry units, and honestly, this is the best variant in my opinion. I know some people like to run it with the 120 point standoff. It gives you the Maws, which is nice. It gives you a little bit more AT capability, but then it changes all the weapon systems to longer range weapon systems, when in reality, these kind of are best to, bum rush into a building, clear that building very quickly. I mean, they're just as good as Delta at clearing the buildings, maybe not quite as good, but with the close quarters, they can do that definitely with their shotguns. They don't have flashbangs or anything, so definitely not as good as the Delta, but they also have these M32 MGLs, so that is really good to building fighting. So even though these are close quarter, they can still fight building to building, and with the M32, that is going to be a grenade launcher that can also destroy light vehicles and lightly armored vehicles as well. So this is probably, again, one of my favorite infantry units, and probably why you can only have 2 of them in your deck. I usually bring this out in the AAVP. So the AAVP has high capacity. It's very slow, coming at a 70 road speed, but with the armor, the front armor of 100, side armor of 100, it's not too bad to bring your infantry out there, and it's also amphibious, so pretty good deal there. And then my favorite infantry unit probably across all decks is going to be the Marines. So for 95 points, it is a little bit expensive, but these things are tanks. You got the 65 health, so that's going to go a long way with 13 troops. If you stack 2 of these, they can destroy pretty much any vehicle with their 6 AT4s. And again, they have 6 rounds of that as well. I like to pair these up with and we'll talk a little bit later, the smalls, because these things are a lot better at destroying armored and light armored vehicles. So go ahead, I get 4 of them. I feel like that's a sweet spot. You could run 3, but I do like to run 4 with this, and I'm a big proponent for the standard. I know some people run the reservist, but then you lose the AT4, so in my opinion, really not worth it. Also, something interesting to know is if you stack up these Marines, I mean, 2 units of it is going to be 13 soldiers times 2, so you're going to have 26 soldiers. They can win off of pure mass against a lot of other infantry units, so just keep that in mind as well. They're also really good at holding buildings because of how much health and how many men they have in that unit. And then paired up with that, so I get the ACVP. I do have the AGL. You could really put anything you want on this. The AGL is going to be a little bit better against infantry. I don't usually put the Bushmaster autocannon. The reason being is because even with the ump armored, you're still only getting 60 armor. These things are going to be, they can get the infantry into a place pretty quickly, which is their advantage. They have 100 road speed, so that's awesome with 13 carrying capacity, okay? But again, the only thing is I wouldn't upgrade this, because then you make it closer to 80 points rather than 60 just for bringing that unit out on the field. I don't think it's worth it, but you can bring it with a Mark 19 or an M2. So the M2 is going to be better at destroying vehicles or light skin vehicles, and again, Mark 19 is going to be able to counter that infantry a little bit better with the fire support. The combat engineer is kind of a dual role. Again, it's pretty good with the building to building fighting because of the smalls D. Obviously not too far with that, but then also they have 2 shotguns in each of these squads, so pretty decent infantry fighting infantry. I mean, these things do really well in woods too against, you know, a variety of infantry. So combat engineer is probably one of my favorite anti-infantry in the game. The Marines CQC is going to be a little bit better quality unit that can fight better close range in general, but this is a good substitute if you don't quite have 100 points. And again, I use it to substitute it because you can only bring 2 Marine Raiders out there. So bring the combat engineers. I definitely think it's worth it. And with this, I bring the STRYKER ESV trophy. So this is a little bit better of a transport in my opinion. You can kind of play with this though as much as you want. I used to run it with the javelin missiles. I've just kind of moved a little bit away from mounted javelins just because I feel like they suck up a lot of points. You know, I'd rather dismounted javelins for the fact that they don't suck up as many points, and you know, if they get shot by, let's say, a tank, actually dismounted javelins are sometimes better because you can put them in buildings, you can put them in the woods, and they get shot by the tank, they're not instantly dead. Sometimes with these, you know, STRYKER javelins or whatever, they do get shot by tanks. They're slower sometimes in the woods with getting out, so you know, if they have cluster munitions, they can destroy it pretty easily. I just don't really like the worth in it, you know, but javelins are javelins. Obviously it's kind of meta in the US right now, so do with that what you will. Next, we have the Troopers AA. So these things are awesome. This is the best SHORAD unit in the game, in my opinion. So you're going to have a STRYKER, or rather a Stinger missile with these guys. And you're gonna have 6 rounds, so pretty good there. But these things actually can fight really well against infantry. So as you can see, you get 8 M4 A1s, you get 2 of the M203 grenade launchers, and then you get a 240 Lima. So obviously they have enough firepower to fight against other infantry with the 45 health 9-man squad. I mean, this thing is pretty tanky for a Stinger missile, and obviously it does the job just as well as any other SHORAD. Yes, it doesn't have 2 Stinger you know, weapon systems in the squad, but it's still really effective. Next, we have the Cat Javelin. So the Cat Javelin, again, is pretty good. And now I'm looking at it is 125 points. I only usually run 2 of these. You can use the Dragon or the Cat Dragon. This is pretty decent. It's just going to give you more missile or more weapon systems, and more missiles. It's just going to not be as much as far as, because this is going to be a Javelin Tacatop, is obviously going to deal more damage because of the angle it's coming in. But really, this is personal preference. I do like the fact that it's 110 points rather than 125, but I think it's probably worth it. But I don't usually bring more than 2 of these out at a time. Again, that's a lot of points to be tied up in javelins, although it is one of the most effective long-range AT weapon systems in the game. And then next is the Assault Small. I would highly suggest bringing 4 of these. I mean, for 70 points is pretty good. Again, you can run the SRAW. I never really run the SRAW. I think the, you know, icon, it changes in the game and it looks a little bit silly, but the smalls are really good when you pair them up with other infantry. So the idea is they can provide the AT aspect, and then other infantry units can provide the infantry fighting aspect of that, and then the bulkier, and they can take the brunt of the force. Obviously, if you kind of compare these, they do have a little bit less hit points, but they do have 2 of these smalls with the 400-meter range, and they have 8 rounds each here. So again, really good weapon. I usually run this with something else like the Marines, or I run them in 2s. So that's typically how you run that infantry. So for the infantry tab, again, really useful. You have pretty much everything covered, from close range infantry to AT infantry to, you have your SHORAD infantry that can also fight against other infantry. You have the smalls for short range AT. You have long range AT with javelins. So, and then you have the combat engineers, which is all around a good unit. So yeah, right there is probably the best infantry tab you can have in the game, minus some SF variations that we've talked about before in the past. For the vehicle tab, so we have the FEP. I really do like the M1A1 FEP. Mainly because of this, it has 4 APS rounds in it, so obviously it can absorb that. And then with the Tusk armor, I mean, this is a really good tank, and it kind of provides the bulk and the shock power that you need. So without the marine section of this, you wouldn't have it, but the Striker specialization provides you with the most important vehicle in the vehicle tab, and probably in the game in most situations is going to be this M10 Booker. Okay, obviously equipped with the Iron Fist active protection and the 50-meter autocannon. So really good with this is you can maneuver it around other tanks, you can maneuver it around other armored vehicles, and you can get that back armor really easily if it's close range and destroy it completely. But you know, this isn't going to be able to go head to head. If it fires front armor with another tank or anything, it's going to lose. So you really need to micro maneuver this, but it can also be really good as a fire support. Takes out infantry really fast. It's just an all-around good vehicle that is, you know, pretty quick to move around, but it also has an armored aspect. So if you know how to use Bookers, I bring 4 of them because I really don't think you can get enough of these things. They're really pesky, and for 190 points is actually relatively cheap for the capabilities that it provides and the range of option it provides you. And then I also have the STRYKER MGS trophy. So this is pretty good fire support, long range. It does have a 105mm cannon on it. So these things can really support against, you know, lighter armored vehicles. Not necessarily main battle tanks. They can provide a little bit of support with that, but really you're gonna have to want to pair it up with the trophy or M1A1 with that to help it out. But it does really good with infantry and other vehicles, lighter vehicles. You talk about BMPs and BMDs, can really fight against those kind of things. So definitely worth bringing some of those rather than, well, you really can't bring any more FEPs. Maybe you could bring another Booker. The way I think these points work out, I think you have to trade 2 STRYKER MGSs. No, you could do that. So you could do 2 STRYKER MGSs, 5 Bookers, but at that point I don't even think you really need 5 Bookers. So I think it's better to just put the points, give you a little bit more options there. Obviously, as faster, it gives you a little bit different capabilities than the other ones, and it still comes with the active protection, 2 active protection rounds, which is pretty good as well. And then onto the support tab. So we have 2 SHORAD. So this is pretty good. The STRYKER SHORAD, I usually get it with the Hellfire missiles. This is a little bit more expensive for SHORAD than I like to pay. However, it does go with this 30mm gun that is on it as well, and this thing can shred a bunch of things, really. Infantry, light armor vehicles, and it takes down missiles as well. So pretty good. You can put on the radar that'll extend its range. So yeah, I really like this. I just think it's a little bit more expensive, and obviously with the Hellfire missiles are going to destroy helicopters a lot quicker, and they can also act as AT support. I would pair this up with something like javelins or a tank. Obviously you don't want it taking the main rounds. It can take, it does have 2 APS, so you know, if they're fired with rockets or something like that, it'll be able to deflect that. But unfortunately, I think what would make this honestly a little bit overpowered, which I understand why they do this, but if they had smokes on this thing, this would be awesome, especially for the price of 245. But without smokes at the price of 245, I do think it is a little bit expensive. Now I really like the Lav AD with the double stinger pods. It's a little bit weaker of a vehicle. Again, you have 60 compared to 250 armor on this vehicle. However, I really just like keeping these around. They're really fast with 100 road speed, so they can get up to the line quickly. I deploy them really first thing to support the infantry, and they rip off Stinger missiles really quick. Now Stinger missiles aren't super strong or anything. You can compare the damage here, but I mean, honestly, they do a pretty good job of at least deterring the enemy. For 160 points, again, it is a little bit expensive in my opinion, but it's much better than the 245 that you pay for the SHORAD, because you really can't afford to just be pumping out 245 points if you need quick SHORAD. So Lav AD, pretty good option there, and it does come with smoke, so I really like that it comes with smoke there. So I also bring 2 STRYKER MCs, mortar carriers, and you know, I run it with the default, but really, so I do run it with the guided round, so you can use this as a quick fire onto infantry or onto supply points if they're within range. Keep in mind it's really 2,000 meter range, but this is mostly to deploy smokes. You can choose mostly smokes, but I really like having the option of doing the guided rounds, of doing a little bit extra with this. But I do have 2 of them, and it is for 120 points. You can get away with just deploying one of these. It'll probably provide you enough smoke as long as you resupply. So that is that there. And then we also have the HIMARS. So the HIMARS is interesting. You can really run any of these options, the cluster warheads, the high explosive warheads. You can use the ATACMS ballistic missiles or the prisms. I really do like the prisms. I'm just not that great at firing them. You have to coordinate a lot with seed. You have to make sure the enemy's air defense is down, or missile defense really is down, to properly implement it. But I really like the high explosive warheads, and this is the reason why. You can easily laze anything, including tanks, infantry, whatever you want, and you fire this from very long range. They can't shoot it down, and as long as you maintain that laze, it will be able to absolutely destroy any of the enemy vehicles or infantry, like I said. So pretty good option there, and that's only for 200 points, which is why I picked this one. Again, it can be anti-infantry. If you get the cluster warheads, it's really not going to be able to destroy infantry and buildings, even if they're lays. So that's why I usually go with this option. With the Patriot Pack 2, so this is one of the really good Patriots, is the Pack 2 Patriots. The missiles provide a heck of a lot more damage. You only get 4 of them, but if you are decent at keeping your packs resupplied, moving them around, this is going to be awesome. I've seen it one shot so many planes out of the sky. So this is a really good air defense system, and I've probably racked up thousands of points and kills just from maybe 1 or 2 packs, just because they're so effective at what they do. I also bring a PLS here, so 40 points. It has a road speed of 100, and it can carry 1,500 supplies. So this is really awesome, just for purely bringing out maybe your bulk supply, and then using your other vehicles kind of distribute that across the battlefield. So the MTVR is really good as well. As a 21-man carrying capacity, so it can carry these higher, or it can bring a lot of infantry to bear. You can kind of pair them up with different types of infantry and drop off those at the front line, and then it also can drop off 6,000 pounds of supplies as well. So pretty good lift capacity there. The only thing I don't like about the MTVR, you have to be careful, because to me it looks like it's a bulkier supply vehicle. It looks like it would be able to sustain more hits, but remember, it's only 10 hit points here. So if it gets shot by anything, it's going down, and it's 65 points, which is kind of expensive for a transport or a supply vehicle. Down in the helicopter tab, again, probably my least preferred helicopter tab in the game, but it does have the basics here. So just looking at what we have here, we do have the Hydra rockets equipped with the sidewinders, so you can really do that, or you can do the sidearms. It's really your preference on what you want. If you want a seed helicopter, go ahead with the sidearms, but I like the sidewinders just in case they do have helicopters that I need to deal with quickly. I can kind of pump these out. 175 points, pretty expensive for anti-helicopter capability. However, I think it's good enough. It does only provide 2 AIM-9s with that, so not the greatest, but you can also use this as a quick strike against infantry in the building, in the open, and then just quickly RTB it back. And then you also have this, which is the Super Cobra. So you have the Viper and the Super Cobra. These are pretty fast helicopters. Again, 300 against 275 blade speed. I mean, it's okay, but the bad thing about it is they don't really have a whole lot of armor and hit points, especially compared to obviously Russian helicopters. These things can get one-shotted out of the sky by Tors and what have you, but they also have a lot of different things you can equip. You can pretty much equip it with anything. I wouldn't really suggest using the Hellfires. I just think it adds too many points onto a helicopter that is way too vulnerable, so I keep it kind of low with the points. I put the toes on it. I mean, it still does a decent job if you really just need something out there quick to counter armor or vehicles that are penetrating your lines. You can pop these out, and as long as their short head's not too crazy, you should be able to at least deter them for a while. Also have the CH-53 Super Stallion. I don't love using these helicopters. Really, I think they're super bulky. I mean, I don't really like using the Venom. I don't like using helicopters in general to deploy infantry or supplies. I'll only deploy supplies very far back with helicopters. The reason being is because they can get spotted very easily, and then even if they don't see exactly the supply point, they're going to see where you dropped it, and they can, you know, bomb that location as soon as you do drop it. But this is pretty decent, especially if you do have, you know, air superiority. You can bring these out. It can hold 30 infantry units, and then it also can hold 14 500 for the carrying capacity. So pretty decent option there, but I only bring one of those in case, depending on the situation. Then moving on to the air tab, the last tab, but honestly probably the most interesting or one of the most interesting air tabs because of this. I have 6 LJDAMs on this Viper. So yeah, it's 395 points, which is yeah, it's pretty expensive, right? But I think it's definitely worth it. The thing about this is you need to know what the anti-air environment is before you deploy this, or else it's just going to get shot out of the sky and you're going to lose 400 points for nothing. But with the 2,000 pound LJDAMs and the lasing ability, so it can self-laze, so as it approaches the tank, T90, what have you, it can drop those LJDAMs, and really I think it only takes 1 most of the time. Usually I'll drop 2 on top of it just to make sure, but it can completely destroy any Russian tank with those 2,000 pound JDAMs. If you double up on a building, it will level the building, especially if you laze it. And then on top of that, you have 6 LJDAMs. Yeah, 4 of them are 500 pounds, but you can still hit multiple targets when you're dropping these. The only thing I would suggest is not to clump up your targets too much if you plan on using the laze, because then it will drop all 6 bombs onto that laze when you can rather strike multiple targets with one flyover. So really good option there. I do have 3 of them because I love these so much. It's a quick plane, but it only has 15% ECM and 15 flares. So I mean, it's not, again, you have to plan for it to use it effectively, or else you're going to lose out on a lot of points. But it is very effective with the self-laze and the 2,000 pound JDAMs. And then next we have the F-35. I've seen so many people run this different ways. It can carry 1,000 pound LJDAMs. It can carry JSOWs. You know, it depends what you want it to do. Really, the reason I have 6 Stormbreakers is because of the price. It brings it down to $295. Again, this can self-laze itself, and it provides you 6 you know, bombs, precision bombs that you can drop on their backline. So think it can destroy 6 supply points. It can probably destroy with 2 bombs each. It can destroy SAM sites. It can destroy just soft backline targets like enemy artillery, tornadoes, whatever, or tornadoes out there with the F-35. And with the stealth, it's going to be able to come in and out really quickly and not be detected till the last second. So all for 295 points. That's pretty much a steal. And then we have the F-16 CJ. I only bring out 1. There are variations of this deck that you can bring out 2, but this actually sustains itself pretty easily. I bring it with the 4 HARMS missiles. Again, this is really fast because it's on the Viper, you know, platform, so it can come in and out really fast, but same problems kind of still apply. It only has 5% ECM, which is pretty crazy. So really you're going to want to low fly it until your objective, hold fire, and then release those HARMS missiles. But since it's so fast, it can get in and out pretty easily, unlike platforms like the Prowler. So that is everything for the Marine Stryker deck. And again, this has received a power rating of number 5, but honestly, the way I've been playing it lately, it's been my number 1. So you guys don't sleep on this deck. It's definitely a great deck, and I'd say if you use this as a starting point, you can make a ton of adjustments, especially in the helicopter tab. I feel like that's just not something I really pay attention to that much. There's, you know, variations you can bring. I wouldn't suggest bringing out a pack MSE because you have the pack 2. It's such a more powerful pack, but there are other options here, right? They have a lot of different supply options that you can use. They have the Centurion CRAM, which is really good, you know, SHORAD and missile defense system. So, you know, it really depends what kind of flavor you're going for here. The infantry tab, again, amazing infantry tab. And with these ACPs, like I said, super fast. So this is a very mobile force with these two specializations combined together, but it also provides you the firepower from the vehicle tab with the FEP trophy and the M10 Booker. So that's everything I have for you today. Again, please like and subscribe to General Johnny's Strategy. It was a pleasure going over this deck. If you guys have any questions or comments, drop it below, and I will see you next time.